once a week, man. Once a week. Knew it. Oh man. All right. Morning, Bam. Evening, Bam. This is off and running. All right. Morning, evening. Bam, what's the time change again? Let me know because I've got a piece of additional information for our coverage of the Women's World Cup. Morning, Ricky. Morning, Coco. It's another round of Soccer's Morning Show. Soccer down here. John here, you there. 11 o'clock. So 14 hours. Okay. So 14-hour difference. All right. As we get ready for Women's World Cup coverage, it's, we're going to have Bart Keeler, who's going to give us the U.S. WNT report. We can do this as well. And we'll go ahead and start it this way. But man, you got to take it out of loop. You got to do these things, and it's just all of this. All right. We're adding Luke Winstel to the stats. Luke Winstel and some students from the Grady School of Journalism at the University of Georgia. They're going down, and Luke is going to be our reporter for the home team. So we're adding Luke Winstel to the reporting stacks for Women's World Cup, and we'll keep an eye on what's going on with the Women's World Cup through the eyes of the journalism school at the University of Georgia. So Luke Winstel is going to be adding to the stack. So we're going to have Luke Winstel reporting on the home team, on the Australians. And Bart will be reporting on the Americans down below, down under. So we're going to be adding to all of our. We're going to try to figure out as many ways as possible that we can cover Women's World Cup. Might even try to have Jessica Charman coming on every once in a while to talk about things when Jess's schedule allows. So he is. Bam. Luke is coming. There's I think a group of what did Luke tell me last night? Give me a second here. It is. They're flying out July 10, coming back August 5, and it's an internship with the University of Georgia's students, and they're covering the group stage. So that's their internship this summer, is that students from the University of Georgia are going down to cover the group stage for the Women's World Cup. So, they're coming down. And we will rock and roll with all of that. So, new writer sponsored by Kickoff Coffee. You ain't kidding. Tafka, I saw your salary cap thing, 10:30. After if we anticipate that Dylan Butler is coming on this morning, I'm anticipating. I saw your notes about the cap, and I was thinking 10:30 as a part of the discussion because we've got like news of the day and things like that. So we'll keep an eye on that and keep me honest about that too. So we're adding Luke Winstel to the reporting stacks for what's going on around the world with the Women's World Cup, and I certainly will, man. All right, let's see. So this morning, got a couple of things. I want to talk All-Star, and we had the names come out yesterday as to who is going and who is representing their teams, who is not having a team represented, all that stuff. So the All-Star roster is out. 12 players determined by a combined vote of fan, media, and players. 12 players selected by Wayne Rooney. 2 players selected by Don Garber. So we'll go over that, who got snubbed. What I want to know from you guys, who got snubbed, who should have been a part of the process, and why were 12 players allowed to be selected by the home team coach. Okay. July 19th, Audi Field, and we'll rock and roll from there. We got that list to talk about today. We've got some stuff going on when it comes to transfer news overseas. We've got all of that material going on. It appears that Spurs have reportedly sealed the £40 million deal for James Madison. Sorry, Nick. So you got that going on this morning. So All-Star, get your notes ready. We'll go through the roster. Let me know who you like. Let me know who you got snubbed, and let me know why Wayne Rooney got to pick 12 of the 26. That's just me. coming up against Arsenal, and Bart Keeler will be able to tell us which third stringers will be making the trip and what to expect from them. So we got that this morning. Once again, anticipating Dylan Butler coming on, talking about everything Major League Soccer at the halfway point of the show at 10 o'clock. And once again, Wall Pass Wednesday. We all know about the Walpassian nature of Wall Pass Wednesday. So whatever's on the table, whatever's on the table. And yesterday, and I want to start with this. We want to start, and Michael, it's to that. That's why yesterday, for those of you who might have missed it when we talked about it in March, we fixed the All-Star game here at SDH. That segment was reposted yesterday on the network, so give it a listen. It's about an hour, but give it a listen. That's how we all collectively fix the All-Star game. If you don't remember fixing the All-Star game back in March, we did. It's on the network, so go back and listen to that. Teemu Pukki got signed yesterday by the Loons, and it was interesting to say the very least. It had been rumored for a while, and when it came to pass, Lionel Messi now has his own section on MLSsoccer.com. No surprise. So, transfer tracker Teemu Pukki is a DP for Minnesota United. Norwich, he was part of Norwich's run to the Premier League on 2 separate occasions. Fantastic scorer in the championship, lights out player. Came to the Premier League. Norwich was outgunned both times. And Teemu Pukki, double-digit goal scorer, but once again, it was for a team that was last in the Premier League both years and was relegated both times they appeared. So Teemu Pukki signed as a DP through June of 25, club option through December of 25. Finland's all-time leading scorer. Joins Minnesota after 5 years at Norwich City. 88 goals, 29 assists, 210 matches. Here's what Adrian Heath said. Here's what Adrian Heath said. Quote, I feel as though we've gotten that goal scorer we've been craving ever since Christian Ramirez left. He's a gold standard proven goal scorer. If you look at his record, he's scored at a high level at every team he's played for. His goal scoring record in the Premier League, the Championship, and the Finnish national team speaks for itself. He's a great professional. What you see is what you get. Always a smile on his face, gets his work done, and is a great teammate. Fact is, he scores goals, and I know that if we continue to create opportunities we have this season, he will no doubt be successful in this league. We're delighted to get him here and get him integrated with the group. And then they post Minnesota United. The Loons posted Teemu Pukki walking in a normal T-shirt. So he fills the DP spot that arose when Luis Amarilla was transferred to Mazatlan earlier this month. So the thought is Pukki could feature alongside Longwane, Sangbin and Bebe Reynoso. Quoting the article in MLS Soccer, Minnesota's offense could reach a new level. So far, they've just scored 17 goals in 18 matches. Mark Watson, the TD at Minnesota. With Teemu Pukki, what we're doing is we're adding an incredible guy, an incredible pro, which is something that's important to us. On the field, it's pretty simple. He's an elite goal scorer. And I think he's got a lot more to his game than that. He's a really good soccer player. He can hold the ball, bring others into play. It's a real credit to the club and our growth in terms of how we go about our business, but also being a club that can attract these types of players. Teemu Pukki was a free agent, could have gone anywhere, and he had a lot of offers from big clubs and top leagues around the world, and he chose Minnesota. Eligible for selection when the transfer window opens July 5th. So the rumors went all the way back to June 10th when it started with Amarilla heading to Mazatlan. So, yeah, Teemu Pukki, Andy Greeter at the time when it was initially announced, routinely outperformed salary spending with place in the standings. And that's what you were staring at with the idea of Teemu Pukki. So let's look at Teemu Pukki a little bit. I went to our friends at FB Ref, and I'll post the scouting report right here. in the Twitch pitch. I will post the scouting report link to Timu Puki in the Twitch pitch. Comparisons for Timu Puki over the last 365 days. Within Major League Soccer, FBref compares him to Michael Ua and Dejan Joveljic. Ua from the Union and Joveljic, the Bishop, coming from the LA Galaxy, their super sub, and Romel Kyoto. Also compared to the likes of Victor Gyökeres at Coventry City and Christian Arango at Pachuca. Now, once again, this is statistical comparisons. So looking at the standard stats for Timu Puki from an offensive point of view, with his time over the last 365 days at Norwich City, top 20% in shots, top 10% in assists, top 15% in XAG, and shot creating actions. Passes attempted, 12th percentile. Pass completion percentage, 23rd percentile. Progressive passes, 12th percentile. Progressive carries, top 10%. Successful take-ons, top 20. Successful touches in the attacking penalty area, top 7%. Progressive passes received, top 15. Top half in interceptions, top quarter in blocks. Doesn't tackle a whole lot. Doesn't clear a whole lot. Doesn't win a lot of aerials, or has not in the last 365 days. Shooting stats, goals over the last 365 days, top quarter. Lower quarter. Sorry, 27th percentile. Top 20% in shots total. Top 40% in shots on target. 24th percentile shots on target percentage. Same for basically goals per shot and goals per shot on target. And PKs made. Shots from PKs lower third. Average shot distance 15 feet or 15 yards from goal, which puts him at top 40%. XG, top half. Non-penalty XG, top half. Passing numbers, basically non-existent. Top 14th percentile in completed, 12th in attempted, top quarter in pass completion percentage. 23rd percentile in pass completion percentage. Total passing distance, 15th percentile. Progressive passing distance, 7th percentile. Passes completed in a short manner, 13th percentile. 9th percentile in passes attempted. Slightly better in medium length passes, 23rd and 21st percentile, so basically lower quarter. Passes completed long, it's better. So he's better at his long passes, attempted, and completions than he is with short passes. Goal creation, shot creating actions, top 12%. Shot creating actions, they're all the high numbers are there. Defense, 21st percentile in tackles and tackles won. Tackles in the defensive third, top third. But if you want him to tackle in the last 365 days outside of the defensive third and the middle third, 10th percentile. Attacking third, lower quarter. Dribblers tackled, 40th percent. Basically the same in challenges. Possession, 12% in touches. 2nd percent in defensive penalty and defensive third, so he doesn't touch the ball coming out in transition a whole lot, or has not. So just looking at those numbers, I would anticipate that Timu Puki is thinking that he is going to be in the attacking third a lot, just on a normal basis. This might be a bit of an adventure for Minnesota United. But once again, our friends at FBref, they compare him to Victor Gyökeres, Michael Ua, Dejan Joveljic, Romel Kyoto. But once again, that's over the last 365 days. We mentioned scouting report and things like that as a way to try and understand who a person could be when they come to Major League Soccer. And when you look at Pukki's statistics, 10 goals in 41 matches played in the championship last year. I'm trying to find his scoring numbers from last year. Because we mentioned how Teemu Pukki has an amazing number of goals when it comes to all of his numbers. Okay, so here we go. Here's Teemu Pukki's numbers in the overall. Norwich City, 43 matches last year, 10 goals, 8 assists. 2021-22, 11 and 4. Norwich in the championship, 26 and 4. Norwich in the championship, 30 and 9. He was a revelation when he came in from Brøndby. But 56 of his 177 goals came in 2 seasons when Norwich City was in the championship. Just keep an eye on that kind of stuff. I want to see how he integrates, but I'm anticipating it being a bit of an adventure. That's just me. So Teemu Pukki's been added to Minnesota United. And according to his head coach, gotten that goal scorer they've been craving ever since Christian Ramirez left. Sure thing. All right. Congratulations. All right. So that was the transaction that came across our bow yesterday, and I was like, what? Okay. So we'll see what happens with Teemu Pukki. All-star team roster. We mentioned, I know that you guys have already started the conversation, and I want to know who your snubs are. I want to know, once again, why Wayne Rooney got to pick 12 of the 26. And I want to know who you liked as a part of the list. John Gallagher was a name that came across for a lot of folks out of Austin. So Christian Benteke was a coach's pick. No surprise. Denny Bouanga voted in by LAFC. No surprise. Christian Espinoza, coach's pick. San Jose. No surprise. Jesus Ferreira voted in from FC Dallas. 10 goals, tied for third most in the league. Gigi, coach's pick. Well done. Kai Kamara, a commissioner's pick from Chicago Fire. Third in scoring with 144 goals, just one behind Landon Donovan. 5 goals, 16 matches, only player in league history to play for 10 teams during his career. Jordan Morris voted in, but will Jordan Morris now play because of the injury that he picked up recently while he's been away on Gold Cup duty? Will he play? That's the big question for Jordan Morris. Midfield. Luciano Acosta voted in, no surprise. Thiago Almada voted in, no surprise. Mathieu Choinière voted in by the commissioner. Leads CF Montreal with a career-best 5-goal contributions, 2 goals, 3 assists. He's appeared in more than 90 CF Montreal matches, helped the club secure the CAN champ in 19 and 21. Ache, coach's pick, Houston Dynamo. Jose Martinez, coach's pick, Philadelphia Union. Regarded as one of the premier defensive midfielders in Major League Soccer. In a match against Arsenal, in an all-star game, you've got a defensive midfielder. Aiden Morris voted in. Started all 18 matches which he's appeared for Crew. 3 goals, assisting, and 3 more. Hani Mukhtar voted in. That's a lock. Ricky Puig, coach's pick, LA Galaxy. First full MLS season, Ricky Puig, by the way, has appeared in 17 matches for LAG, a goal and 3 assists. Okay. Lucas Zelarayan, coach's pick, Crew. 8 goals, 7 assists, 16 matches. Defenders, Barreal voted in, FC Cincinnati. Gallagher voted in, Austin. Hollingshead, coach's pick, LAFC. 1 goal, 1 assist, 17 matches for LAFC. Miazga voted in, Cincinnati. Tim Parker, coach's pick, St. Louis. Started all 17 matches, one of the more experienced players for All Caps SC. John Tolkien, coach's pick, Red Bulls. 4 assists in 15 matches. Walker Zimmerman voted in. League low 16 goals allowed for Nashville this season. Keepers, Berkey, first ever captain for St. Louis. 76 saves, one of 4 keepers with at least 60 saves and a 75% save percentage. Tyler Miller, coach's pick, DC United. 6 clean sheets, 51 saves. Georgi Petrovic, coach's pick. Coach, Wayne Rooney. There you go. So at first buzz, pretty solid. Obviously, there are some questions in here, and that's how I'll phrase them. And we'll get you up with Dylan Butler once again, top of the hour, hopefully, and we can go through this with Dylan too. So you look at the list, obviously, with the scoring. You can't go wrong. You give Kai Kamara an attaboy. I get it. Like I said, Jordan Morris with his current knock. Will it be something that will keep him out of the All-Star game? Keep an eye on that. Chouanier as a commissioner's pick. I get it, I guess. Ache, Jose Martinez, Aiden Morris, Ricky Puig. Ricky Puig, goal and 3 assists in 17 games for LAG. Then your defenders, Hollingshead, Tim Parker. Keepers, Berkey and Miller. Okay. So that's what you're staring at. So let me know, and I'll go back into the I will go back into the Twitch pitch, and once again, who got snubbed? Who should be in this to go up against the Arsenal C team? Let me know. Who's had let me phrase it this way. Outside of an All-Star game appearance, who has been worthy of being nominated as an All-Star? How about that? So that way we can put it to the side that they're going up against the Arsenal C team or cameos from whomever, and however you want to phrase it. Who has had an All-Star worthy season in your mind that was not on that 26 name list that should be on that 26 name list? Yeah, and if the 12 players get voted in, who doesn't start? Ricky, Miles not on the All-Star team is strange. Michael Head, obviously not a fan of the All-Star game in general. All that Atlanta has to do as a city is look at Greg Garza and what happened to Greg, sadly. 2 most important players get to play another game, a worthless, needless game in which they could get injured. And Coco, we will go over all of the transfer news this morning. Sean, you know who got snubbed? Anyone who wanted to see a West versus East. They're not Arsenal's kids. Sean, you're not wrong. Like I said, those of us here back in March, here at SDH, across the board, Twitch pitch, Nick, Jarrett, myself, we all fixed this All-Star game thing. We all fixed it. Unlimited changes. Fire wagon change. Basically, you tag in. You've got celebrities. You've got unsuspecting media. You get your wrestling introductions. Surprise folks at halftime. Somebody's in street clothes. Landon Donovan could be covering it. BWP could be covering it. Sasha Kljestan could be covering it. You tap him on the shoulder at halftime. I mean, literally, you have an individual. You literally have an individual who has almost like the like the fairy godmother bit. And what you end up doing is you tap them on the shoulder. Literally. You tap the individual on the shoulder and you go, "You're in. You're absolutely in." Then you have to appear. If you show up at this All-Star game, Ricky Ricardo, Brandon Vasquez, excellent point. We have Brandon Vasquez information as well. You get tapped on the shoulder inside that building, you have to go down and you have to perform. You have to go into the All-Star game. Literally, like I said, if Mo is there and Mo gets tapped on the shoulder by the fairy soccer godmother, Dink, you have to go down and perform. You have to go into the match. If you're wearing a suit, if Sasha Kljestan is wearing a suit, if BWP is wearing a suit, if Liam McHugh is wearing a suit, if Kalen Kyle is wearing a suit, and you get tapped, you've got to go in. Could be just for one play. Could be for a set piece or a breakaway on a hot tag. But we have fixed the All-Star game. Go back and listen to it. But, Sean, you're correct. Anyone who wanted to see a West versus East, that's who got snubbed. Yes, Michael Head, worthless. Michael, I think, has been one of the more vocal individuals against the concept of the All-Star game currently as it stands. Abby's also surprised Miles isn't on the list. Michael now remembers why there's an All-Star game. I hope Garber and company are going to be happy when Arsenal's C team of teenagers beats MLS's best. Michael's once again on a roll. Too bad the Loons don't play us. We're the cure to other teams' scoring woes. Michael says it's hard to put a defender on an All-Star team when his team has the worst defense in the league. Any players playing in France who may be on the radar? Don't know. That's an interesting question. I know a lot of you guys are going back and forth about the weather in Australia this morning. Michael with a hot take. Glad Miles isn't on the All-Star squad. Played enough soccer this season, especially with him now at the Gold Cup, and that is a concern. I mean, you have folks with national team duty that are, they're bouncing around a lot. I mean, John Tolkien's an example. Walker Zimmerman's a part of that. You have all of these folks who are tapped to play international duty, and Gigi with Europe, with Greece and his home side. There isn't a whole, and Jordan Morris and such. There isn't a whole lot of crossover, but there is some in this list of 26. But you stare at it and you're going, yeah, I get it, I understand it. But with the Gold Cup, and Rich, we mentioned the idea of it possibly being an attaboy for Kai Kamara. Bam, the LAFC-ness out of Bam. Pooj is having an amazing season. It's his breakout year. Oh, Bam is enjoying this. Also, Bam says, I would have to say the person that missed out the most was Chris Klein. He should be in the All-Star squad. See, all of this LAG fire, all these slings and arrows being tossed by our resident LAFCer at Bam. Nothing like on a show, a fan of LAFC from Australia lobbing bombs at LAG. He gets to do it every morning because he can, but especially in an all-star format. And Rich, and this is another interesting question that's a part of this. And Rich, it'll be good to see you, by the way, this weekend. Rich wonders what the ratings/attendance differences in current valuations would an East-West or MLS foreign team be. And that's an interesting idea that's a part of this. Because, and let's break this down a little bit. Would you, Twitch pitch, think that the ratings for, and do we, and are we at the point now, and this was a point that was made yesterday, I think it was from our friends at Awful Announcing, where are we past the point of ratings? Do we actually care about ratings anymore? Because now with households, it's about streaming services and subscriptions and all these kinds of things. Are we past the point of actually caring about ratings? I would think that it's more about views and then archived views and the individual segments that are being tapped as a part of all of this. So you look at all of these different elements that are attached to all of this. In over-the-air broadcast of an event, you have the overnight ratings, you have the ratings, you have the look, and you see what it might end up being. But now, with streaming services, and specifically with Apple, you have the capability of seeing something live, seeing it archived later, going back and watching it multiple times, going back and watching individual segments that are culled from the broadcast and placed in either YouTube or social media or what have you. That probably is something that counts in some metric someplace when it comes to ratings. All of these different elements that we now have that we are exposed to in a streaming environment, as opposed to just the one and done of, growing up and watching the Major League Baseball All-Star game and the pageantry that's associated with it, and Ted Williams coming out and, meeting Mark McGwire and Tony Gwynn, in a golf cart at Fenway Park. Having that kind of a moment was a one and done. Now, in a streaming environment, you can watch that over and over and over and over again. And if you are the league/network that's attached to these experiences, which is what they are now, it's not just a program, it's an experience. I can guarantee you that the network that's attached/associated with it streaming service is going to, as a part of their measuring metric, talk about minutes streamed, talk about average viewership in minutes, talk about all of the different elements that are clicked on, viewed, and watched and consumed in any form whatsoever. And I don't think you can take that and turn it into a traditional ratings point or ratings viewing element of what's going on. We used to be able to do these kinds of things. But now, that was when we're talking about Super Bowl. We know what a Super Bowl is because it's still traditional television. Traditional television gives you traditional ratings point, Olympics, what have you, all that kind of stuff. But the Olympics also being segmented now on Peacock and with social media and with YouTube channels and with things like that. When you have something like that, NBC, Comcast, Universal measures it not just by the overnight over the air, but they go by minutes and Peacock and streaming and all these different kinds of things. So you add all these different kind of metrics to it. And I can guarantee you with something that is going on with Major League Soccer, if Apple was attached to it, Apple would sit there and go, okay, we had X number of minutes viewed with the All-Star game and all of the various and sundry other things that are attached to it. All the activity that, for lack of a better example, all the activity that's going to be at Annapolis with the Unified All-Stars and the MLS Next Pro All-Stars and the competition, the goalie wars, and all the fun things that are attached to it. Apple will take each and every element of that, and they will break it and put it under one collective umbrella and sit there and say, the MLS All-Star Week gave us 11 billion minutes worth of viewing, and the average viewership lasted 37 minutes or whatever. You won't just have the 24 rating and a 32 share for a one-time viewing. And Apple can continue to build these metrics and sit there and say, well, yeah, after 30 days of having the All-Star game as a part of our directory, 75 different things were clicked on for a total of 22 gazillion minutes. Average viewership was 52 minutes in length. Those kinds of things is how they measure things now. It's not just going to be that 24 and a 32 for the over-the-air product that we see in all the other All-Star games. So keep an eye on that. We might be past the point now where, specifically with Major League Soccer and their pairing with Apple, you're not looking at traditional ratings points. So, Rich, to make a long answer longer with your question, I don't think it's necessarily, and this is where they could probably come up with their evidence of, okay, well, hey, it was Arsenal, and Arsenal meant that we got this bump and this boost. I would still maintain that if you kept things internal, meaning East versus West or the SDH fix, that the entire week would showcase yourself and not have you put up against competition from another league. And I think that was the main hook in our wanting to fix it in the first place. Have fun. Have fun with it. Don't subject your players to possible injury where you could detract from your product for the remainder of the season in a key market. So keep an eye on. I think that if I think attendance wouldn't necessarily matter because, in this game, it's in DC. It's at Audi Field. So if you can't sell out an All-Star game format in an Audi Field, then you got a problem. I will be interested to see what it looks like at Annapolis for Unified and for the MLS Next Pro. That to me is what would be interesting as a part of this also. How different is it? How filled is the building for the MLS Next Pro stuff? Is it just lower bowl? What's your expectation level? So that's what I'm staring at when it comes to Major League Soccer and ratings and attendance and current valuations and keeping everything attached to making sure everybody's as healthy as possible. Ricky, Michael is anti all friendlies. All friendlies. Parzival. That was good. Hang on just a second. I got to figure out. Oh, can I get there? When you're clicking something and you knock your mouse over. I know this is great live radio, but I had to grab my mouse. Ow! Bang your wrist against the piano. Parzival. The whole alternate All-Star game got started because we felt like we don't need the buzz from EPL teams anymore. Do we not feel the same about their friendlies over the summer, too? Interesting question. I don't get fired up about it. I like what the Premier League is doing. I like what the Premier League is bringing over as a part of their experience just because it's new and different. I get the idea of having friendlies and having folks going up against those teams that you want to measure yourself with. How do my younger players go up against and match up against the younger players of the team that we're bringing in? And I know that there's always that fan hook that you're looking for also. So, if you have the opportunity to sit there and bring in a club that has a fan base in your area, and this is the other part too. I think that as a part of the marketing element of it, gauge what the secondary fan is looking for. It's like, yeah, you're a fan of your team in your market, but at the same time, okay, who else is being worn? Where can you get that bang for your buck instead of just bringing in random team that, people might sit there and go, it's a Wednesday night, I'm not interested. You got to do that kind of marketing too. And Ricky, their preseason matches over here for their own brand, not for the growth of MLS. Correct. Bam, I think after paying 130 Australian dollars, then halfway through the season, my phone company offers free MLS season pass for the rest of the season, gives me the right to lob bombs on the Galaxy. And then Bam says, MLB and NBA All-Star Game used to mean something when the winner gets Game 7. Now just cancel the lot. And Rich, true, but the Pro Bowl only survived as long as it did because it would get a killer rating, right? And now with the Pro Bowl, I mean, when the Pro Bowl, I don't know if the National Football League waited too late. Because when it got to the point, all right, let me look at the scores. All right, so Pro Bowl scores. Pro Bowl history. All right, so Pro Bowl history. It was, in the early, you'd have games that were fairly competitive. And of course, I'm looking back and I'm going, okay, wow, that was 25 years ago. You had games in the 20s. You had some blowouts. Then in 2000, or the 99 Pro Bowl, that was when things started to get out of control. You had an 82-point game in 2000, a 55-point game in 2001, or sorry, for the 2000 Pro Bowl, 2000 season Pro Bowl. 99 season Pro Bowl, 82 points. 2000 season Pro Bowl, 55. 2001 season Pro Bowl, 68. 2002, 65. 2003 went nuts, and it was 107 points. Then it was 65, and then they tried to dial it back with rule changes, I'm guessing. 2005 was 40, 59, 72, 51, 75. 2010 was 96. 2011 was 100. 2012 was 97. More rule changes. 13, you had Team Rice and Team Dion, Team Michael Irvin, Team Chris Carter. Team Michael Irvin, Simeon Rice. When it went back up to 76 points, they dialed it back again. And then things picked back up with like the touch football idea, 19, where it was 71 points, 76 points in 21. And then last year with the point system, where they didn't have an MVP and it was just like glorified target practice, it was 123 points. So I think what you're staring at with the Pro Bowl in the National Football League was a league that couldn't figure out if it wanted to take the game seriously or if it wanted to take it as an exhibition. And you knew that no one was going to be doing anything short of glorified hand checking. There was not going to be any tackling. They didn't want to risk it. And it turned it into a bit of a laughing stock just because, possession, score, possession, score, possession, score. And they didn't do anything. It just, look, if that's going to be the way that it's going to be, put them in shorts, do it like you did, the last couple of years where it's fun in games and target practice. Nobody gets hurt. You have a lot of points, and you turn it into a TV experience instead of an actual game. And I think that's what you're staring at. All-Star Game is supposed to be fun. Doesn't have to be anything else but that. You don't have to give everything a meaning, Ricky says. Michael also says that back and forth with Ricky, meaningless All-Star games should determine nothing, especially a Game 7 championship games. David, Major League Soccer following the inverse of if it ain't broke, don't fix it mantra. Michael hopes the attendance is 5,000 at Audi Field. Michael's fired up this morning like nobody's business. Ricky, if my team didn't have home field advantage for a championship due to losing an all-star game, I'd be furious. Hey, I mean, Major League Baseball just means more. Look, story time with John. I was in Milwaukee. I was in Milwaukee for that all-star game. And it was one of the biggest laughing stocks I'd ever seen. I mean, you run out of players and you're trying to figure out how to come up with an ending. And in the home stadium of the then commissioner, you call it a draw, call it a tie. I mean, it was open revolt. In the highlights, if you watch, you probably could see me sitting in the right field stands because that was where the auxiliary press box was at Miller Park. But Major League Baseball for the longest time couldn't get out of its own way. And that would be, it was just one of those moments where you sat there and you went, man, Major League Baseball really is just, they don't know what they're up to. And that seemed to be the microcosm of Major League Baseball at the time, having an all-star game in the new building in the hometown of the commissioner, and it ends up being a tie. Absolutely just, it was mind-blowing at the time when it's like, yeah, we don't have any players. We don't have any players left. Okay, it's a tie. Okay, now it just means more. But anyway, yeah, that was an adventure with Major League Baseball. Let's have an all-star game that's a tie with baseball. That was brilliant. Yeah. Oh boy. Ricky, Pro Bowl games was fun to him. It should be the format going forward. Right. But if you are a league and you want to do that, just make sure that, if that's it, that's cool. But the way that the National Football League kind of, worked their way up and down and around, and it was like eventually, yeah, sure, okay, that's it. Instead of, all right, you're going to be dressed out, but there's no real tackling, there's no hand checking, those kinds of things. You're pulling the rules away from the game, but you still want the players to play the game. Either make it fun or make it like a regular game. The NFL in their Pro Bowl couldn't quite figure out what they wanted to do, but now that they've got it this way, I think that it's a competition. Let them wear the Pro Bowl jerseys, let them throw at targets, let them wear shorts, whatever. Treat it with the seriousness that you want to treat it with. If you don't want it to be serious, you want it to be fun and goofy, let it be fun and goofy. I don't think, Ricky, there were any big injuries coming out of TST. Ricky is maintaining the idea that possibly 77s could be a way about it going forward. I think it'd be kind of fun. And I think that, TST would have an interesting approach to things. David, NFL abandoned the game and went Battle of the Network Stars. Correct. NBA changed skills and went Elam ending. Hockey went 3v3. MLS is still working on it. Baseball needs to go full banana ball. Well, banana ball. Yeah, the NBA All-Star game in the 90s, where there was absolutely no offense whatsoever. I mean, absolutely no defense whatsoever. I mean, you had, and where it is now, I mean, you look at the scores from the NBA All-Star game. Yes, fun over meaningful. Ricky doesn't want a game. He just wants NFL field days. Okay, so All-Star game recaps, 1950 to 23. So, all right, let's go backward. 23, 359 total points. Then before that, in 2022, it was 323, 320 in Atlanta, 312 in Chicago, 342 in Charlotte, 293 in Los Angeles, 374 in New Orleans, 196 for the West in 2016. So 369 points in Toronto, 321 in New York, 318 in New Orleans, 281 in Houston. So, I mean, you see where this goes. The last time that it was a marginal, it was more like a current NBA game, was back in 2006, 122 to 120, 242 points. Now it's just launch and go, which is, let it be that way. No one's going to play any defense. Just launch it and go. And, yeah, if the MLB went full banana ball, it would be amazing. Fun over meaningful. Rich, is it wrong the complaints of all-star games are overblown? It's not supposed to matter. But I think, Rich, when you have, and I know that in all-star games, if folks get injured in an all-star game that is giving the representation of an actual game, in quotation marks, then folks are going to sit there and get hot about it. And I think where Major League Soccer is, where Major League Soccer is as a part of this, if you want it to be fun and meaningful, let it be fun and meaningful, self-contained. If you try to bring in a team from the outside, there's always going to be that element of competition. There's always going to be that element of, you're looking at, okay, so we're still trying to measure ourselves up against Team X's league overseas. Be self-contained. Let it have the meaning that let it be fun. Let it be self-contained, I think, is what we were we were trying to discuss as a part of all of this stuff. Be fun, be self-contained. Don't be trying to be fun and still trying to measure yourself up against other leagues. I think that was the point that we were trying to go with here when it comes to Major League Soccer. And Ricky does make the point, the fact that Bananas haven't done anything in Atlanta, it's a failure on someone's part. Michael, still on a roll. Okay, I get MLS is dead set on having this all-star game BS, but why not put it at the end of the season? At least it wouldn't pile on another game in the middle of the season. I think that when you're looking at all-star games, traditionally, I know that the Pro Bowl they call it a Pro Bowl instead of an all-star game in American football. That's why it's at the end of the year. All-star game, middle of the year. Major League Baseball, middle of the year. Baseball, football, basketball's middle of the year. Yeah, baseball's middle of the year. Football's a Pro Bowl, so it's at the end of the year. And I think probably a lot of it has to do with the fact that you can't break up an NFL season. It's only 18 weeks, so you have to put it at the end. You don't want to go 9 weeks and then, all-star game. So in all the other sports that we talk about, because the seasons are longer than 17, you break things up. You have a bit of you catch your breath a little bit, get ready for the second half of the season, those kinds of things. Parzival, will they televise the competitions and skills challenges? That's a good question. Let's see if we can find an answer. Let's see. With the roster, I need all-star stuff. That's what I need. I need all-star material. We haven't even talked about Gold Cup yet. We need to talk about what happened with Gold Cup last night. We haven't even talked about that yet. Let's see. 4:30 to 9:30. I'm sitting here scanning and seeing skills competitions, our soccer celebration, the All-Star concert with two people I've never heard of before. I'm guessing on some level they will be televised, probably on YouTube or something like that. unified action, all-star game, skills challenge. Wouldn't surprise me if the skills challenge was on Apple. I don't see any kind of notification as to where it would be yet. But the MLS Next All-Star Game, unified game, those wouldn't surprise me if they were either on the free side of Apple TV or available on YouTube, things like that. But I have not seen, as I'm sitting here scanning the press release and trying to determine what is going on in the All-Star Game in Washington, D.C. Only thing that's mentioned as being on Apple is the All-Star Game itself. But I would imagine that the other material is available probably on YouTube or something like that. But when we know, let me know. And when you find out first, let me know. All right, it is hour number 2. And we bring in, as always here, when he's not traveling the world of high school in the tri-state, on our friends at Varsity Media on the YouTube channels, OSDB Sports and MLSsoccer.com's Dylan Butler. Dylan Butler, what is up?
What's going on? How are you?
We are having. Oh, first off, what's the mug?
Oh, not that they're playing well or anything, but Yankees.
Okay. So he's so Dylan is sporting his Yankees mug this morning. We are getting into a long discussion about All-Star and a couple of different elements to it. First off, you had the 26 names that were mentioned as you have been anointed All-Star. You hear the magical ding as you're tapped on the shoulder. You look at the names that were put out there. I'm still trying to figure out how Wayne Rooney ended up with 12 names of the 26, and 12 are voted in, 12 are given to Rooney, 2 are given to Commissioner Don Garber. When it came to the list, and we were going over the list this morning, who raised your Dylan Butler eyebrow as to why is this individual here? Who got snubbed? And why is Wayne Rooney getting 12 of the 26?
Yeah, I'm not as I feel like anytime there's a list, whether it's like an all-star or I get more sort of involved like with the best 11. Like I get more upset about those, right, than necessarily the all-star. Like it's an exhibition match, so it is what it is. But that being said, of course, your thought immediately goes to oh, that guy made it and this other guy didn't make it. So to that question, couple stood out to me. One was Tyler Miller.
Yes.
Who it seems like the only highlights that we're seeing lately are like these long chips behind him into the goal. Perhaps that's what they want Arsenal to do. I don't know.
Yeah,
it would make for some good highlights. But he's a guy I kind of was surprised at, and on the other side of it, a guy who like his resume would say he deserves to be there, but I don't think his play this year is Ricky Pooch. Like,
yeah,
what has he done this year to warrant him other than just being like a really good player, right? So those to me are like two that immediately stand out.
Yeah.
For the Tyler Miller part, I'm like, and again, they're not having a great season, but I think Drake Callender has been really, really good.
Yeah.
For Miami, so that would be a guy I think maybe deserves it ahead of Miller. And I mean, yeah. So I mean, that's one right there off the bat. And a few other guys you could go as well for Pooch's position, but like those were two right away that were like, I don't know about that. Like, where's Julian Gressel? Or like that's one for me. That is a surprise. Julian Carranza, another one who's a surprise.
Ricky Pooch, I mean, Are we just catering to large media markets with the Ricky Puig nod? It's like you want to bring the LA audience in there somewhere. You want to bring the LAG audience in there because you've got Hollingshead and Boanga across town. But Ricky Puig, yeah, we need somebody from LA Galaxy. Why?
Or you like to see him surrounded by really good players, competent
This is
players.
what life could be like for Ricky Puig
Yeah.
if he was not currently in Los Angeles.
Correct. Yes. Maybe that's what it is. Showcase his abilities there.
Well, and back in, we've been going over this the last couple of days. Great for John Gallagher to get tapped for Austin in a situation like this with what he's been able to do defensively. But we went back and referenced our show back in March, where we were fed up with all-star games in general, and Nick Jarrett and I, in the Twitch pitch, we fixed the MLS All-Star game
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
in an hour. So we referenced that show yesterday as a part of all of this. And it's, we have some of our listeners and our viewers here who are fed up with all-star games in general because they're tired of seeing players getting injured, because you've got a league that wants to treat it seriously, and you bring in a competition that is like, all right, we're showing up, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's a C team. It's like a bunch of kids. And so you want to try to treat this pageantry as seriously as possible, but your opponent comes in and they're like, well, do we get to see Martinelli? He's in tracksuit, Thomas Partey. Well, if he's here, Martin Odegaard. Well, maybe see tracksuit.
But that's always been my problem with, and we spoke about this when we, like, the format that worked for me at least was Liga MX All-Stars, MLS All-Stars, right? Because there's always going to be competitive play there.
Mm-hmm.
But with the expansion of Leagues Cup and CONCACAF Champions League and
do you risk oversaturation at that point?
100%. But and I know you guys fix it, but then that's the question now. Like, do you go back to what it was? I'm not particularly interested in seeing a European team in their preseason, against MLS guys who are in their midseason just about, now Leagues Cup is there and they're already playing a ton of matches. So, I don't know. I'm not super excited about
it. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, if you end up with a player, and the example here in Atlanta is Greg Garza, when the All-Star game was here, Greg gets injured as an all-star, and you lose time having one of your members of your key back line who's not a part of the idea of wanting to, chase a championship. Those kinds of things always hang over folks' heads now because of something like this. And I can understand the negativity that's attached to it. One of the other,
I think too, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think, like, look, I've been around this league long enough to remember the earlier days when it's sort of like, you need that cachet of whatever that team was. Who was it? I was up in Toronto. Actually, I have it over here somewhere. Here it is, 2008.
Oh, there you go.
That All-Star game. That was like Fulham, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe was it Aston Villa? Maybe Fulham. But the Barcelona, but I think I think as a league, MLS has matured beyond that. At least I would hope that it considers itself to be more mature than having to bring in, this big name. And all of a sudden, all the talk in the lead up was, we're looking for respect, as a league. And we want to prove to these guys that we could play with them. Like, no, enough.
Focus on yourself and grow your game. You don't have to prop yourself up.
And I think this is a big year for that, right? Between another team making the Champions League, the Apple TV deal, so there's more people worldwide watching.
Mm-hmm.
Leagues Cup is exciting. That'll be more opportunity but as far as playing a European team in preseason, like, I mean, listen, and that being said, I have to hold my hand up. I'm the guy going to see Newcastle in Philly and Red Bull Arena, right? So, but I also know what I'm going to see, right?
Yeah.
It's two Premier League teams in preseason and a chance to see my team in person for the first time in a long time. So,
Pro goalie wars, yes or no?
100% yes.
And the fact that it's
I'd be more excited for goalie wars than almost anything else.
I mean, and the fact that, and I thought it was an interesting twist that you're bringing in MLS Next Pro keepers, and I thought that was a nice touch where you can have that kind of expansion with what's going on.
In fact, I would rather probably watch 2 hours of goalie wars and have it from all of the American soccer pyramid.
Yeah.
Like make it like just moving up the pyramid, like a US Open Cup for goalie wars.
Okay. So what you would propose is, now, would you propose almost like a TST goalie wars kind of a thing?
Yes.
Where, like a day of, and it's just like, okay, you start with like 8 or 16 different goalies. The Goalie Wars Open Cup. Ricky Ricardo has named it Goalie Wars Open Cup.
Yep.
The GWOC, and you have Goalie Wars Open Cup. You start with, say, since they're in season right now, you bring in NPSL keepers.
Yeah.
And League Two, and you sit there and it's like, all right, well, I don't know if the League Two would be allowed considering the relationship between the USL and.
There's obstacles.
Yes, certain. So NPSL would sit there and go, "Yep, we're in." So NPSL would be in, and you work your way up that way, and you work your way through the pyramid and MLS Next Pro, and you turn it into a showcase for what you would see. So Dylan Butler's GWOC, the Goalie Wars Open Cup, and turn it into
and then the survivor of the American soccer pyramid portion will now go up against Arsenal's keepers. And the All-Star game's over now.
Yes. See, once again, we continue to fix the matches that are put upon us for for product, and see, we're making the game better, which is what we want to do here at SDH on a daily basis. Dylan Butler hanging out for his Wednesdays with Dylan. When it comes to, and this was the other part that we were getting into this morning when it came to the discussion about ratings. Rich Ransom, our resident Philadelphia Union fan and watcher from the Philly area, was wondering about the idea of, would ratings and attendance be either better or worse if it was MLS self-contained versus MLS going up against MLS versus Arsenal C team. And I made the point that we might be past the idea of ratings as a traditional metric when it comes to soccer, specifically when it comes to these events and competitions, because you're talking about streaming and minutes and cut downs of individual segments and things like that, where a network can say, well, all of these different things, where it's not just a live game, it's a live game, watching a replay, watching segments, watching highlights, all these kinds of things. The measurements for the metrics are now probably different for Major League Soccer than anyone else when it comes to the possibilities of what you can take out of an all-star week.
I think that's fair. It's hard to put it up against the old Nielsen ratings, right? Of whatever percentage or
24 rating and a 32 share. Yeah, for a one-time viewing of insert spectacle here.
Right.
Now with Major League Soccer, it's like the possibilities of all these different things. You sit there and it's like, well, we had 13 gazillion minutes by X number of views, and all these different things were watched, and this was our most popular element that was watched, and you're not attaching yourself to what we're used to having to sit there and gauge when it comes to ratings and shares and viewing and all these kinds of things.
Man, no, I think that's a good point. just as I guess the All-Star game itself evolves, so too should the ratings perspective, I guess, right? Change
Yeah.
as well.
Yep. All right, let's talk about the actual games themselves. Now that we've fixed goalie, we've added Goalie Wars Open Cup to the whole process. Oh, what did you think of the Timu Pukki? We talked about Timu Pukki in opening kickoff. What did you think about the Timu Pukki signing, where Adrian Heath says, "I feel as though we've gotten that goal scorer we've been craving ever since Christian Ramirez left."
He's probably not wrong.
You could have kept Christian Ramirez, but okay.
Yes, fair. And they, it's they figure they'd go out and they'd find go international market, look for others, and as it turned out, the best was right at home anyway, right? But yeah, I like the signing. It's funny. I was wondering, like, is this part of the of the messy trickle down? Like, this is Minnesota's answer, right? Like, they get
So Timu Pukki's the Minnesota Messi, is what you're saying.
Right. maybe.
And,
But yes, this is a position that they've obviously lacked, and now it's even more important with Reynoso back in, right? So, so for sure, I think I'd imagine come September, October, he'll feel right at home.
Yes.
With the weather in Minnesota. So,
Yes.
yeah, on the surface, it looks like a good signing for sure.
And the thoughts from our friends in the Twitch pitch is that Minnesota cannot avoid the Scandinavian variant. They can't help themselves. They always go back to
Robin
it.
Lod.
Well, and I mean, do you remember the first year that they were in Major League Soccer? And I'm trying to grab that roster really quickly. John Alvabage at keeper. It was Vadim Demidov, league MVP Vadim Demidov at center back. You had Jerome Thiessen, Rasmus Schuler. I'm looking at this roster and I'm going, oh boy. But there were so many folks. I mean, it literally was the Scandinavian variant for Minnesota was something that they started early, and it did not go well early on when it came to. I mean, when you've got Fernando Bob as one of your defensive midfielders, one of the best names, by the way.
I think a few things you are, I guess, always true with Minnesota is the Scandinavian part. They will get rid of their young players because apparently they have zero tolerance for any development of young players.
Right.
And when they win, they play Wonderwall. Those are the three facts I think that follow Minnesota United.
Yes. So you end up with the Scandinavian variant with Timu Pukki, Minnesota Messi, Timu Pukki. I thought it was intriguing. Timu Pukki may not necessarily come back and try to help you out defensively. He'll probably hang out more middle third and sit there and go, all right, come on, guys. We're
get the ball to Reynoso, please.
come on. Yeah, one of those kinds of things. The week that was in Major League Soccer, what stuck out to you with all of the activity that happened last week in MLS? What has stuck with you over the last couple of days?
I got to go back now. I got to remember. Let's see, match day 21. You had some lopsided results, didn't you? Philly pounding Miami.
It was Miami. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and again, you do wonder, right? Like, we've said it before, Miami's got to get some results before Messi and friends come in. They're not going to be able to go like 12-0, right? Like when they arrive. I mean,
yeah,
he is, arguably the greatest player of all time. But
yes.
he's not superhuman. I don't think
Well,
he's godlike, but he's not God, and I don't think he
yes,
can rescue a sinking ship if they don't start treading water now. And then I think Red Bull Atlanta. I mean, from a Red Bull perspective, all those underlying numbers, it feels like they finally in this match against Atlanta like showed yeah, we can, yes, we know that we can score goals, and now we're proving that we can score goals. And of course, it comes against Atlanta, right? Like again, it's one win, I think, right? Well, 2 wins if you count the playoff game, which is obviously the most important game to count. But what is that now? Two wins all time for Atlanta, and they've never won at Red Bull Arena.
correct.
So those were a couple, and obviously the end of the Bob Bradley era with a loss to New England. So to me, those. Oh, and of course Vancouver, right? Like that was such a great result for them. You love Vanni Sartini just sort of like, hey, Ryan Gauld, I know that you're in the middle of the park, but we've got an idea for you. And he's like, what? Gaffer, what? Like, what are we doing? Yeah, you can go play left wing back.
Yes. Well, and because of that, apparently Vanni Sartini is going to be singing Rockstar with Nickelback on stage in Vancouver.
I think about to say that was part of the All-Star weekend.
See, that'd be pretty funny if it was. But yeah, apparently Vanni Sartini is a fan of Nickelback, and it got trickled back to the band, and so he gets to sing Rockstar.
Well, he's the guy. He's the fan.
Yes. Yeah, right. Sartini is. We have yet to talk about one of the games that was not mentioned, and it was New England Revolution 2, Toronto FC 1, and that was the last match that Bob Bradley was going to be head coach / general manager for Toronto FC. So what about Bob? Bob is now looking for work. What'd you think?
Yeah, I don't. I can't say that anybody's surprised, right? It feels. I mean, it certainly seemed like this was coming. The only question was, when you saw the smoke, and it wasn't from the wildfires in this case, coming from Canada,
right?
You wondered, is it salvageable, right? Like, can he repair this relationship with the Italians? Is it it seemed like there maybe were two factions in their locker room. Could they all get together, sing Kumbaya, and start winning games? Apparently, obviously not. It never happened. So you do feel for Bob Bradley in this case. I mean, look, regardless of what he did in Toronto, he's a legendary U.S. manager, right? So you feel bad for him. I've whether it was with the U.S. national team or his days here with, I think they were the Metro Stars. I think they were Metro Stars at the time.
I think they were.
In fact, Alexi Lalas was his general manager at the time. He fired Bob Bradley here. So interesting side note there. But you feel bad for him, but it's the results weren't there. And I don't see any easy fix to it, right? Like, you can throw out all these names you want, and who's going to be this and who's going to be that. I think they'd be wise not to tie the two positions. I know they just bumped up Jason Hernandez.
Yep.
They'd be wise not to make it a head coach, sporting director type of situation. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what there isn't an easy fix for what is a really good soccer market. Like, I've been up there a ton. It's a great city, one of my favorite cities. They love their soccer. When Toronto FC is doing well, they pack that place. It's an easy draw for for players, certainly, right? Like they spend money, but this was your worry, I think, the whole time when you put so much of your money into these two players, and now you've got to build around it. They seem to have addressed a couple of their concerns in the offseason, getting Sean Johnson, getting Matt Hedges, two examples. But yeah, no, it obviously didn't work out. So maybe Bradley, got the last salvo in a sense by taking Bernadeschi off.
Yeah.
Was it at halftime of that match, right? Like, so yeah, no, it's unfortunate for him, and just, I guess, a bad situation all around. Their loss is the rest of the East's benefit, I guess, because that's at least, maybe it seems like right now, one team that you're not worrying about trying to battle for one of those playoff spots.
Yeah, and Fabrizio Romano has come out in the last couple of minutes. Manchester City's Rodolfo Borrell is set to join Austin as sporting director following a 9-year stay with City. Top assistant, former global technical director, is going to sign a multi-year deal. Announcement expected soon. So, interesting news out of Austin.
Yeah, now they become sort of CFG West, right?
Yeah.
Started with Claudio Reyna, and now kind of continues as well.
So we'll keep an eye on that one. I haven't had the chance to catch up with you about Gold Cup yet. It was 1-1 for the U.S. out of the blocks, and obviously it's not like an A++ roster. How much Gold Cup are you watching? Apparently, our friend Own Goal is making an early run for leading the Golden Boot in the Gold Cup, and it happened in one match last night. Canada couldn't get past Guadeloupe after 90+4 equalizer. Jason Russell Rowe G makes it a 2-2 draw. So Canada doesn't get a win out of the blocks. So how much Gold Cup are you consuming these days?
To be honest, I really haven't. I mean, I did watch the U.S. match, and it's sad for me because it's a tournament that is close to my heart. I spent, maybe 3 or 4 tournaments embedded with the group doing some writing for CONCACAF.com. So I was usually with the U.S. group, but that was like super fun, man. Like I remember, one year I think I started in, I think it was like my barbecue tour. Like I started in Nashville, made my way to, I think, Dallas, and then to Sporting Kansas City. So like I hit all 3 of them. It was, charter flights and nice hotels and all that kind of fun stuff. So, yeah.
Sounds like there's a deep dive or a book that could be coming out of this one with travels in CONCACAF.
The funny thing is, like, so you do, the charter flights the whole way, and then now your tournament ends, and usually mine ended maybe like semifinals. I don't think, unless it was around here, I made the final because there's only a certain amount of riders you need. So all this fun stuff with the charter flights now ends with the smack in the face of the reality. Like now you're back in a terminal. Now you're waiting at gate 16. You've got the crying babies on the plane. Like it's back to reality for you.
Oh, I mean, I was stuck in Newark with the boss. We were trying to get out of town after
Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah. The boss here in this particular abode, sir. We went up for the Red Bulls match, and because of weather in the Northeast, I had to spend an extra night in Newark. So we had a hotel in the Meadowlands for the extra night before we could leave. And apparently we got out just in time because apparently the weather up there yesterday was nasty. And
I would have. You should have let me know. I would have hit you up with a really great Spanish restaurant in Newark in the
Ah,
Iron.
see, okay. Next time I go to Harrison and wait an hour for an Uber because they all change their minds after a match, and you get an Uber driver who's like, "Oh, this is the first time I've ever been here before."
This place is nice.
Yeah.
Who plays here?
Yes, exactly. So that was that was an interesting experience, and definitely something that will be a story time with John someday after the statute of limitations expires. What's the latest with you with MLSsoccer.com and OSDB?
Yeah, I mean, more of the same. It's a rare. It feels like now midweek without matches, which ends, I guess, next week, right? 4th of July.
Yes.
A bunch of matches coming up. And OSDB, we're continuing our preview coverage of the Women's World Cup. So we this past Monday broke down some of the contenders. This upcoming Monday, we'll break down 10 players to watch. And again, I think if you're a regular viewer of women's soccer, names won't be surprising. But, I think these kind of big tournaments bring out the casual viewers as well. So this will sort of help be a viewer's guide for them. And then one last plug at Varsity Media on the YouTube channel that you mentioned before.
Yes.
Big one on Thursday night. We're doing a college commitment for a 4-star wide receiver / tight end, although I think he'll be more of a tight end in college. KJ Duff, 6'5", 207 out of St. Anthony's, a rising senior. He's down to a 3 of Rutgers, Miami, and North Carolina. And we'll have that announcement live from the main event in Farmingdale. So we'll be on location Thursday night. Coverage will start about 6:15, 6:20 on our YouTube channel. So if you're a college football fan, a fan of any of those teams, tune in, find out where KJ Duff is going to go.
Visited Rutgers back on June the 2nd, visited North Carolina as he was recruited by Freddie Kitchens back on June the 9th. Right now, 6'5", 207 out of Melville, New York. Corey KJ Duff Jr., 3-star, according to our friends at 24/7 Sports.
Well, I think 4th rivals, but whatever. I think he just went up to 4 stars. But I've covered the kids a couple years now. He's the first freshman to ever play at St. Anthony's. Had a monster. I mean, he had 7 receptions for just over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns in the championship game. Like, this isn't week 2. This is like the biggest game of the year. And he just balled out. Huge target guy, great route runner. So that'll be fun on Thursday night.
The number 2 tight end in the state of New York, 4-star in the 24/7 Sports Composite, ranking out at an 89.9%. The number 18 tight end nationally.
Yep.
Commitment announcement with our friend Dylan Butler. We'll keep an eye on that because A, always BB, C. Cruton, my friend. And we will catch up with you and the Yankee mug next week, and you can tell us all about KJ Duff and the recruitment ceremony.
Yeah, we'll do.
All right, Dylan Butler with
Cheers.
his Yankees mug. He's ready to go. And as always, let's see. So Parzival doing reverb before the next Atlanta United game. The way that it works with the reverb matches is the Saturday night home games. Saturday night home games are when we do the reverb by Hard Rock early kickoffs. So Saturday night 7:39 kicks are when we are at reverb at 1:00. So I didn't want you to go Sunday and get there at like 11 a.m. or something and try to see if we were there. So as a rule, the reverb by Hard Rocks are for the Saturday 7:30 kicks, 1:00 to 2:00 at reverb by Hard Rock. So I think there's 3 or 4 of them left. So we'll be there for those. And keep an eye out in your itineraries for those as well. But so all of the but I mean, Rich will be there. We will be there independently. We just won't have the big reverb kickoff at 11:00 in the morning, say. or 10 o'clock in the morning, because it would be 6 hours before, 6.5 hours before kick. So it would have been 10 o'clock in the morning. It would have been brunch with SDH at Reaver. But we'll be there. Obviously, Jason will be there for 92.9 and his duties. I'll be there for my duties, doing pre and half with the Hoff. So, yeah, as a rule, Parsival, the Reverb shows are for the 7:30 kicks for the remainder of the season on Saturday nights. Okay, yes, DM, yes. Go ahead and rock and roll, Rich, DM, and we'll go from there. All right. Let's see what else is going on this morning. I know that we've got transfer news and Tofka. I know that we need to. You wanted to get into the cap questions that you had this morning. Salary cap, transfer fee cap, and you wanted to talk about a war chest cap on transfer fees, and a war chest cap. Okay, so we'll get into this, but let me get into the other elements that we have here for the show. A little air traffic control tomorrow. Very, very busy show. It is going to be Bart at 9:30, because tonight it is the U.S. and St. Kitts and Nevis. So we'll talk about it tomorrow. Bart's on at 9:30. Our friends from the USL show, Kaylor Hodges and the rest of the USL guys, they'll be on at 10. Nico Moreno and Thursdays with Nico is at 10:30. So Thursday, stacked show. Looking forward to it. Friday is our normal stacked show. It will be 9 o'clock, normal intro, 9:30. Greg Garza, since he wrote it into his calendar, and our friends at Beyond Goals. Jessica Charman coming on at 10 o'clock to do a little soccer over there and get us into the weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. So very, very busy Thursday and Friday when it comes to what's going on the network. So, all right, so let's get into the gossip, rumor, and innuendo this morning, and we will discuss the cap question that Tofka had before we get out of here today, plus all of the viewing and all the viewing habits and things that you need to tap into as well. Let's see. Manchester City will not match the Arsenal bid for Declan Rice. It looks like it's going to be in the neighborhood of $135 million. Arsenal very confident last night, remain very confident working on the structure of a deal with West Ham. We mentioned the Rodolfo Borrell departure from Manchester City heading to Austin. Mateo Mejia signing a new deal at Manchester United. The 20-year-old stays with the club. Jeffrey Kondogbia to Marseille. Here we go. Agreement completed with Atletico on an €8 million fee. He only wanted to join Marseille. Contract valid until June 2027. Medical test being scheduled. Done deal. First signing for Marcelino as the new Marseille coach. Manchester United Chelsea set to make final decisions on Mason Mount, as direct contacts will take place within 24 hours. They want to get face-to-face. Manchester United will be clear once again. They want to get it done for $55 million. Once again, looking at Declan Rice over the next 24 to 48 hours. Chelsea in advanced talks to sign Brazilian talent Angelo from Santos. Blues are offering £15 million for 2004 forward Santos. And as Vene Casagrande, the Brazilian journalist, has posted details to clarify, but the deal is concrete. Ziyech is going to undergo medical tests with Al Nassr on Thursday, as it's been scheduled. Contracts finally signed, Al Nassr and Chelsea. Let's see, we mentioned the Mason Mount. Ruben Loftus-Cheek will be in Milan Thursday to complete the medical test as a new AC Milan player. €16 million fee, €4 million in the add-ons. Tottenham have opened direct talks with Wolfsburg for Mickey van de Ven, the Dutch center back. Now, we talked about that yesterday a little bit. Verbal proposal set to be submitted as Van de Ven's keen on a move. Edmund Tapsoba remains among options on the Spurs list, but he's more expensive. The release clause for Dominik Szoboszlai, valid until June 30 for €70 million. Release clause, $70 million, only in the case if the club submits it before June 30. So everybody's keeping an eye on Szoboszlai. Also on the board, Manchester City have entered the race for Gabri Veiga. after pulling out of the Declan Rice deal. Liverpool-Chelsea interested. City also informed a release clause is €40 million. Jorginho, happy to be staying at Arsenal. He has posted that to his social media. AC Milan have opened concrete talks with Valencia for Yunus Musa as one of the top targets for the midfield after the Loftus-Cheek deal has been done. So keep an eye on Yunus Musa and AC Milan. Bayern have been informed that Upamecano is now going to be represented by Moussa Sissoko as his new agent. One more important player for Sissoko after reaching an agreement to represent Randall Colomawani. Chelsea set to open talks with Brighton for Moises Caicedo as negotiations begin, with the club starting within the next day or two. Personal terms are not an issue. Chelsea prepared to attack the deal, according to Fabrizio Romano. And so keep an eye on that. Let's see. AC Milan has signed a new backup keeper. Marco Sportiello joins as a free agent from Atalanta. Deal is valid until June of 2027. Fabio Carvalho set to travel to Germany in order to complete the loan move to RB Leipzig as expected. And that's a here we go now confirmed for Fabrizio Romano. Full agreement reached last week as Carvalho joins Leipzig on a loan deal until June of 24. No buy option clause in the contract. Let's see. Jaden Broff leaves Dortmund on a permanent deal as Hellas Verona triggered the buy option for €1 million. Signed a 3-year deal at Verona, considered an important talent for the present and the future. Spurs not advancing on a Clement Lenglet deal with Barca, not a priority. Focus is on Tapsoba, Van de Ven, and apparently, depending on the source, Harry Kane is keen on a move to Germany. Keeping an eye on that. Final details of the Mendy to Al Ahly deal. Chelsea's going to get a 16 to 17 million pound fee. Salary is 12 million plus 3 million in add-ons. Contracts until June of 26. Medical was done on Monday in London. Club statement is expected soon. Looking at our friend Ben Jacobs and what Ben has been discovering this morning. Liverpool are not readying a €300 million bid for Kylian Mbappe, contrary to some reports. Any approach for Mbappe downplayed by those close to the club. We mentioned Butler. Spurs are going to face Shakhtar in a friendly at Spurs Stadium on August 6th. Match will raise funds for the Shakhtar's charitable foundation. Spurs will also make a financial contribution. Shakhtar Social has provided financial support and humanitarian medical assistance to children and families across Ukraine since the war started in Ukraine. Mason Mount, once again, they're looking at Manchester United's 50 plus 5 offer, remains on the table despite being rejected. Bayern are going to test Daniel Levy with an improved offer of around £80 million all in for Harry Kane. Spurs' position is that they will reject all bids entered. Let's see, a lot of discussion about Declan Rice and Mason Mount. Let's see. Claude Makele has been named in the game for Ukraine. And Phil Dunster apparently has also been named in that one as well. So it'll be interesting to see him in that match as well. Harry Winks close to joining Leicester in a deal worth £10 million, according to Alistair Gold for the Spurs correspondent for Football.London. And Manchester United explored Kane, had low optimism a deal was possible. Remains to be seen whether Levy will sell and at below £100 million to a non-Premier League club. Bayern want Kane to help them force the move. So keep an eye on that. Looks like Caicedo to Chelsea might be 70 plus 10. Appears possible, although £100 million plus figures are often quoted. So we'll keep an eye on that. The Madison deal, he's undergoing a medical today. Initial $40 million with add-ons on top. The deal was struck pretty quickly. More on Mendy, more on Madison. We mentioned Zaha and Stormy yesterday getting involved in their neighborhood club. Going to other gossip, rumor, and innuendo that's attached to the whole thing. Let's see. Arsenal had that third bid now for Declan Rice. Spain's David De Gea signed a contract extension with United. Trafford, but United backed out of the deal and have offered him a lower salary than they had originally. That's from David Ornstein. Eric Ten Hag's uncertainty about De Gea is behind Manchester United's U-turn. That's from the 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Porto's needs to raise money to meet FFP regulations has seen them offer Diogo Costa to a number of suitors in the Premier League. Chelsea, Manchester United among those contacted. Let's see. Manchester United would also consider entering an auction for Mbappe. PSG open to offers. That's from the 3-letter paper. Inter Milan set to make a new bid for Romelu Lukaku with a £25.8 million option to buy at the end of the season. Arsenal closing in on Ajax's Jurrien Timber and Chelsea's Kai Havertz. Manchester United remain interested in signing Frenkie de Jong. Bayern Munich also exploring the possibility. West Ham in talks with Juve over a permanent deal for Dennis Zakaria, spent last season on loan at Chelsea. Brighton have yet to get any offers from Moises Caicedo and are keen on Ajax's Mohamed Kudus. In return, should Caicedo leave. Ajax want £40 million for Kudus, with Manchester United also thought to be interested in the deal. That's from the 4-letter paper. Liverpool, Newcastle United among the Premier League clubs eyeing Chiesa. That's from a Corriere dello Sport. Chelsea have turned down an offer from Galatasaray to sign Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang on a free as they want to recoup some of the $10 million plus they spent on him last September. Leeds are interested in Liverpool's Nat Phillips. Real Madrid considering activating Fenerbahce midfielder Arda Güler's €17.5 million release clause, but the amount of commission added on top is complicating the deal. Everton has turned down a £4 million bid from Ipswich for 22-year-old English striker Ellis Sims. Jesse Lingard is considering all options, has not ruled out a move to Saudi Arabia following his departure from Nottingham Forest. Sheffield Wednesday are in talks with Dean Smith about their vacant manager gig. So that's the latest gossip, rumor, and innuendo overseas. All right, Tafka wanted to get into salary cap, transfer fee cap, war chest cap. So let's get into this here. I mean, I have an initial thought, but I'm going to go over the basics. And for those that haven't seen this on Tafka's Twitter account this morning, here's what Tafka's looking for. Salary cap up to $40 million, but you've got to have a ceiling of 20. Yep, Ted Uncle for Atlanta and Philly. Yay. That got announced. Forfeiture of percentage of league revenue share for violations of floor or cap, 1 buyout a season plus 1 designated player spot. You've got to get league approval. Return the rule to the original star player intent. The player is completely off the cap. Tafka's idea for a transfer fee cap. Owners' real money is used for both international, domestic transfers and other trade needs. Can carry a transfer fee balance or a deficit of $50 million. Deficit fees are extinguished after 5 years or extinguished to whatever extent the outgoing transfer fee brings. Before 5 years, a DP slot does not count against the transfer cap. The war chest cap that Tafka is proposing, created from net profits on transfers of players and competition winnings, limit of $60 million. Never can expire, but can only be used once. Can be used in full for transfer fees. 10% can be used for salary cap assistance. There's more details on Tafka's Twitter. My initial thoughts, and obviously we always welcome yours. Salary cap, I think, needs to be higher. I'm all for a ceiling. I think 20 million, I think, is safe. And I think that you need to punish teams in whatever way possible if they don't spend the ceiling or don't spend the floor. I think 40 million needs to be a lot higher, because if you're going to try and attract folks to be a part of a growing league, then it needs to be more than 40. Like I said, I'm all for, there's got to be some kind of punishment, whether it's a tax or something out there if you don't meet the floor. Something that the Phoenix Coyote, and even if it's, the lack of transparency or it's like, here's a dead player contract, we'll take that on. If you want to do that, that's your prerogative. Whatever you got to do to get to the floor, get to the floor. If it means trading dead cap money to do it, and players that aren't playing and they're injured but haven't retired, that's what you want to do, more power to you. Fine. But I think that the ceiling needs to be a lot higher than 40. Transfer fees, I don't like the idea of carrying if a team wants to spend more money than they make, that's fine. That should be on them. If they want to do it, I'm not going to put a limit on a transfer fee balance. I would hope that teams aren't what we sadly see in Europe a lot, where you have teams, and I know that FFP gets in the way, but you have teams that are in trouble financially, and we see this in the second division and below in England, just as an example, where they're not spending money wisely, and they're trying to, and this is probably, and this is a byproduct of promotion and relegation, at least in some instances, where you have those clubs that have spent money to try to stay in the Premier League and they fail. And then they want to try to continue to spend more money and more money and more money to try and get back into the Premier League, and they fail. And they're at the bottom half of the championship, or they end up getting relegated again. They have problems making their bills, that kind of a thing. I would hope that since Major League Soccer is only 26 years old, that you would have owners who understand the gravity of negative spending. And I know that obviously not having a promotion relegation element to it aids in that. So I wouldn't necessarily sit there and say that you can carry a deficit. If you want to spend more money than you make, that's on you. If you're not successful about it, that's on you. I will say, Tafka, when it comes to your caps in 2 and 3, Section 2 and Section 3, transfer fee and war chest, to me, it's restraint of trade. And Emilio is looking at contraction. I don't know if you can get to that. And Tafka, in his notes in salary cap, he says, I'd love more than $40 million. Tried to design it in a way MLS owners might actually go for it. I figured over 40 right now would be dead in the water. I think that if you make the cap an astronomical number like 80, you're going to have owners like Miami that are going to want to spend. Fine. You want to spend, you want to find a way to make it messy and friends, and you want to make a cap, and you want to bring in all the all-stars. And we haven't gotten into this at all this morning, but it looks like if once Tata Martino's paperwork and visas have been approved, then he becomes the new head coach at Inter Miami. So if you end up with a situation where you have an owner that wants to spend, give him the rope. You want to make it $80 million, great. I'm not going to put a fee on a transfer cap. If you want to spend more money and lose more money on your bottom line and you want to bankrupt yourself, that's on you. I know that sounds very libertarian. And to Emilio's point, if you don't want to spend a reasonable number, get out of the game. But at the same time, though, I would allow for your academy to grow. And there is a way to do both. Like I said, I think $20 million is a reasonable figure. I think $20 million as a floor is a reasonable figure for a cap structure. Like I said, we've seen the Phoenix Coyotes, Arizona Coyotes, whoever they are now, in the National Hockey League. I think the floor is 40. And they have had to make trades with dead weight to get to 40 in some years. No, they've not been competitive, but that's on them. That's been their choice. That's why you got to have a floor. I'm not, and I'm not, when you think of a transfer fee cap, if somebody wants to spend money Let them spend it. If they don't want to spend money wisely, that's on them. Let them spend it. If it gets to a point where they have to break things down and rebuild and break things down, much like the Marlins and Wayne Huizenga, you got successful by spending all this money. You won. Okay, we got to break it down and we rebuild it and break it down and rebuild it and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to let owners, I think that we also got into the notion of increasing the number of DPs. I would, try to figure out ways to dispose of, allocation money and just let spending be spending. I like what they've done with the U22 initiative, because then what that does is it promotes the idea of bringing in young talent. But when it comes to your transfer fee cap, Tafka, what I would propose is, if an owner wants to spend, let him spend. If they want to lose money hand over fist, let them lose money hand over fist. Let them learn the lesson themselves. Right now, Major League Soccer is not in a position where they have to be concerned about FFP. Let them spend that kind of money. And I think that and to the conversation that Tafka and Emilio are having, there will be, for every owner that does not want to spend and sees the rest of the league pass them by in a competition sense, I will guarantee you, in a growth market, that you can find somebody that will want to purchase a Major League Soccer franchise and understand it for the growth initiative that it is. Give you an idea. This was something that I've held on to from our buddy John Wall Street at Sportico. And this is back in July of 21. So this is basically a 2-year-old article that John Wall Street wrote over at Sportico. The 2021 valuations, and we've gone through the Deloitte numbers every single year, but this goes back 2 years, just to give you an idea of where things have grown from. LAFC had topped the list, estimated 2021, $860 million, 10 times 2019 revenues. Seemingly, revenue to value multiple was below the league average at 12.2. Double-digit revenue multiples typically reserved for high-flying tech stocks, not pro sports franchises. The average NFL team, for reference, traded at 6.4 2 years ago. Fair to wonder why savvy investors like Ted Siegel and the Wilf family were willing to pay 13 and 10 times, respectively, to pick up Houston and the Purple Team. Sportico Valuations Authority Kurt Badenhausen suggested the answer has to do with their belief in the growth prospects of soccer in the United States, as well as scarcity value and the relatively low entry point to pro sports teams' ownership that MLS provides. Badenhausen, quote, "There are a lot of wealthy individuals that want to own a sports team that can't necessarily write $1 billion check for NFL, NBA, or MLB, but they can write a much smaller check and take ownership of an MLS team. And in terms of control stakes, there's not a baseball team, basketball team, or football team on the market." Like I said, this is 2 years ago, but this is the same information holds. Sportico's valuations were designed to reflect what the market would bear for a given club if it became available, not a determination of what an investor should be paying for a franchise. Transfer of wealth has and continues to enrich the 1%, has increased the pool of prospective buyers for sports teams and driven up MLS prices. Sportico talked to an executive at the time. There are a lot more people worth $800 million or $1 billion today than there were 10 years ago, but most of them can't afford to buy a baseball or basketball team for $1.5 or $2 billion. They can get an MLS team for $400, $500, or $600. Scarcity and feasibility aside, those buying MLS clubs at double-digit revenue multiples are believers in the growth trajectory of the league and the promise of soccer's popularity in the United States. So that's what I'm looking at when you're looking at the idea of folks that want to purchase soccer clubs. A club, and so Tafka says a club doing that also harms the league, and I know $50 million sounds low for transfer fees, but it is on a rolling forgiveness basis and subsidized by the war chest. Tafka does appreciate the parity of the league, and having no fee cap risks losing that feature. One DP, a rolling $50 million deficit limit, should well exceed anything spent by current MLS clubs. The DP really makes the fee cap around 70 or 80 minimum plus a war chest subsidy. When it comes to the current state of spending in Major League Soccer, I think, and like I said, this is just from me staring at what we're staring at on a daily basis. There are multiple ways to get things done. You can do what Inter Miami wants to do. You can do what Dallas is doing. You can do what Atlanta is doing. You can do what Philly is doing. You can do what Montreal is doing. You can do what Vancouver is doing. You can do what LAG is doing. You can do what LAFC is doing. There are multiple ways to do it. So the idea of having a war chest and a transfer fee cap, I think that if you give enough leeway when it comes to spending and getting, I think that if you increase the cap or put a cap in and it's higher than 40, it allows you to do things in a way you want to do them. But I think that because of teams that want to build from within, not everyone will be presented with that notion of, all right, we're just going to spend our ass off and build that way. I think that there are too many clubs that want to build from within to where not everyone is going to go down that same road. Not everybody's going to be in that kind of trouble if they want to go down that road. It is going to be up. I think if you leave it up to each individual businessman or group, how they want to spend their money, if they want to spend their money, or if they want to build from within, I think that you present enough options for folks to try and figure out how they want to run a business. But I think if you, like I said, in this league right now, and guys, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we've ever had a club run at even a deficit of $50 million, regardless of a transfer deficit of $50 million. And I think that when that would come, because of the nature of sports franchises here in this country, that owner would understand the black hole that they have created for themselves financially. And I think that you would find someone who would want to sell. And you would find those buyers that would be interested in buying. So like I said, I think that's just me in this case. Like I said, I could be way completely and totally wrong. And that's just my thought pattern when it comes to doing this kind of transaction in Major League Soccer. Like I said, that's just me. Cool piece of news out of Gotham FC before we go. Sinead Fairley is going to represent her country in the Women's World Cup. She's going to represent Ireland. Very, very cool for Sinead Fairley. NWSL transfer window officially open today. It closes on July 25th. Keep an eye on that. But so the biggest thing, a war chest. I think that the transfer fee cap and the war chest. I think Tafka, when we get into this discussion about war chests and transfer fees, I think that a lot of it, if Major League Soccer took if they opened up the financial wherewithal for clubs instead of pinning them down to just X number of DPs, and this is GAM, and this is TAM, and this is WHAM, and this is, whatever, and these are Garber bucks. I think that if you were allowed to perform a little more freely within the financial constructs of Major League Soccer, I think a transfer fee cap, I think if someone was operating at such a large deficit, I think they would sell anyway. And I think that you would have folks who would dive in and take over those franchises. And then the war chest, I would hope, would come from folks that are spending wisely to where they know what their limits are. And that way they can continue to work as they want to work, if that makes any sense. So Tafka's proposal for a salary cap, a transfer fee cap, and a war chest cap at May WJ9, or just, take a peek for Tafka, and it's on the Soccer Down Here Twitter run. So keep an eye on that. Run through that and have the conversation on the Twitch pitch and amongst yourselves and all that kind of stuff. But no, it's that's what Wall Pass Wednesday is about, bringing ideas to the floor so we can have these kinds of discussions. And then 2024 All-Star Game looks like it's going to be at the Death Star at lower.com. So congratulations to Columbus. You've got an All-Star Game, and we'll keep an eye on that. So Tafka, as always, thank you for thinking about the game and thinking about what's going on inside the game. So that's what like I said, that's what Wall Pass Wednesdays are all about, is having these kinds of discussions and locking things down and discussing how we want to make the game better and how we want to see what's going on in the game and work our way in and around it. Last night in the Gold Cup, I know that folks might have gotten a chuckle out of own goal, doing well for Canada, or going against Canada last night. 90+4, salvaging a 2-2 draw against Guadeloupe. Today it is Copa Libertadores on BN at 6 and 8:30. Internacional Medellin and Flamengo and Aucas at 8:30. And if you don't have BN, you can go to fanatisfntz.co/soccer down here. Helps out the show, helps you get all the stuff on BN for the fans. Say, which I've gotten hooked on. So BN and Espanol have Copa Libertadores tonight. NWSL Challenge Cup at 10:30 on CBS Sports Network. Angel City and San Diego. Gold Cup 7:30 and 10. Jamaica, Trinidad, and Tobago. Hopefully another sighting for Jay Fortune. USA St. Kitts and Nevis have a late night at 10 o'clock on their kick. So FS1 to the NA Unimas. Apple TV and MLS Season Pass tonight. OCB and Philadelphia Union 2's at 7. You can catch that on Season Pass, the MLS Next Pro show, previewing everything. The review preview will be up on the network a little later on this afternoon. On Golasso Network, European U21s at noon, Israel, Czech Republic, Italy, Norway at 2:45 on the Plus. Roots and RGV at 10 o'clock, and Tormenta and Forward Madison at 7:30. Paramount Plus has more of the U21s. England, Germany at noon. Israel, Czech Republic, noon. Italy, Norway, 2:45. Challenge Cup on Paramount Plus, Portland and OL Reign at 10:30. 4 matches on VIX with the U21s. England, Germany, Israel, Czech Republic at noon. Switzerland, France, Italy, Norway at 2:45. So that's your viewing for today, and that gets you ready for the rest of the day. So, no, Tafka, like I said, that's Wall Pass Wednesday. That's what Wall Pass Wednesdays are for. Let everybody discuss on the Twitch pitch and let everybody discuss here and rock and roll with you. So that is a show. And like I said, we'll be back at it tomorrow, and we will, once again, very, very busy show. 9:30, Bart Keeler discussing USMNT, USWMNT, whatever's on his mind. So it's Gold Cup discussion, everything else at Bard Keeler at 9:30. USL show, 10 o'clock. Kaylor Hodges and the guys from the at the USL show will be breaking down the month in USL and probably talk about Memphis 901. 10:30, Nico Moreno, Thursdays with Nico. Very, very busy Thursday. Jessica Charman joining us at 10 o'clock on Friday to discuss some stuff. Soccer over there, Greg Garza at 9:30, and our friends at Beyond Goal. So very, very busy week here on the show. Thanks for hanging out, and thanks for being a part of things all across the board. It's great to have you guys as a part of everything. So since it is the end of the show, play it safe, everybody. We will rock and roll again in about 22 hours. Since it's the end of the show, mucho plats, y'all. It means I get to do this. We'll catch up with you on Thursday Thoughts.